What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and today we have a very special treat. Chris has been out at Blizzcon, and we've been able to get with him. He's been sending me notes about his experience with the event. We're going to talk about a lot of things, and we're probably going to do it over a series of videos because with Blizzcon, there's just so much news and information coming out. But today, I want to kind of go to him and get kind of an initial thought of kind of his time with the conference, getting in and out, but then kind of shifting the focus to a little bit of the Diablo Immortal kind of situation, and then within the greater context of what is going on with WoW, because that is essentially something that he's obviously very interested in. So Chris, welcome all the way from, are you in California or Seattle? Where's BlizzCon this year or every year?
We are in California. It's always here in kind of the Anaheim area, so that lets all the Blizzard employees be close to their homes and everything, relative to the rest of the world who has to come all the way across the country. It's quite a bit of time changes, even for the people that we have here just from the East Coast. I'm with my WoW community, which is made up of a ton of people who play or don't play World of Warcraft anymore, but we all continue to stay in touch. And so I'm here with a big group, and it's been a lot of fun. I will say that this is my first BlizzCon, but being here with people who have been here, some of them have been to literally all of them, has been a huge help, because the amount of chaos this year, I think if it had just been like me and Brian and we'd never done this before, I'd be lost. And so there's 32,000 people here. That's bound to be some piece of them that are just totally lost on how to do this experience.
I'm very curious though, because I was like, you said you did message me saying that somebody actually recognized you from the channel out there.
Yes,
how was that?
yes.
How was that experience?
I'm not a morning person, so I just didn't have the wherewithal to like ask for a picture or anything. But I was standing in line and got recognized and got thanked for introducing her to the Final Fantasy community. And it was like, I looked back like an hour later and I'm like, what are the odds I could find her again to say how nice it was to see one of you guys in person? We had to get up so early because of the metal detectors. So I just was not all there, but
right.
It's neat to think that you guys are here at BlizzCon, since we mostly hang out with the Final Fantasy community.
So I got a question, and before we kind of dive into the big subject though, but it relates to the security overall, because obviously we've had some horrible stories that have come out this year, like the Madden event, that was just horribly tragic.
Yes.
We'll be in Vegas for Fan Fest. Obviously in Vegas they had a huge horrible event not too long ago. Do you feel safe? Is it security theater? Does it feel like, talk to me briefly about your experience so far.
There's always, every year there's a lot of shootings in America, but 2018 and kind of the last, honestly, 18 months in general, we've had a lot of very public facing ones, and we've had ones that have been centered at very public venues. So we had Vegas, and then of course we had the one in that was Jacksonville, right? That was gaming related. And so I think there's an additional layer of pressure above and beyond just the normal fact that America is kind of ahead of all the other countries in shootings because of our views on gun control. So without making this political, like it's always a risk, but right now it seems to be something on everybody's mind. And so BlizzCon chose to put a layer of security in the mix. Now, there are tons of documented ways to handle security that don't impact large crowds, but security theater is also about making the crowd feel like you're watching, not just watching. And so they hired companies to put metal detectors at all these entrances, but then there was really only like one main entrance into the conference halls, but the website said 4 and there were 4, but like one only went to the store and one only, and like, so like we ended up going through security multiple times yesterday because somebody would be like, hey, if you guys don't mind, like, can you just step through this door real quick? Like, you guys are kind of blocking traffic. And we'd step through that door and then we'd be like, hey, how do we get to the conference? Like, oh, well, you're outside security now. What? And I waited 40 minutes to get through security, and we got there early so that we'd wait 40 minutes. Some people waited hours.
Yeah. And
then in 1 second, somebody said, hey, do you mind stepping through this door real quick? You don't think about it. And now you are outside security and you have to go back to the end of the line. So that was pretty frustrating. it, and then realizing at one point that we'd waited in line to get in security and then had to go wait in another line. So we get through that line, they say, and this is the line to get in. I was like, well, this one move fast. Everybody's through security. And the people in front of us go, no, we haven't done security yet. So we could have been in that line the whole time. And then the thing about the way BlizzCon works is they don't let you into the conference center too early for the opening ceremony. So they let you kind of file in like an hour or so before the starting of everything. But because of the security, there's only so many people that they can get through per minute.
Right.
So usually the way it works is they fill the arenas and then they literally count you in, and there's bathrooms in the arenas and things like that. So thankfully I was with people who told me, like, if you have to go to the bathroom, just hold it, get our seats, and then you can go to the bathroom. There are bathrooms on that side of the count, because if you go in there and you leave, they replace you, because this whole thing's televised. And so they want every seat filled. And then
right. Yeah.
if you don't get into one of the arenas, you have to wait out in one of the main areas and basically watch it on a big like mega screen, where you might as well have just gotten a virtual ticket for at least that portion of the conference.
Yeah.
So we push in, we get great seats. We go to the Overwatch arena starting, I think it was last year. They basically, instead of doing everything on the main stage and having all the other stages kind of watch and then filling them in order, they said, go to the stage that interests you, or the presenter interests you, or whatever, or is your favorite stage, or just pick a stage. And then we went to the Overwatch stage, and that means that anything dealing with Overwatch was presented live in front of us. But then everything else was on screens. And so every stage gets a piece of the conversation.
Yeah.
Which is an awesome way to do it, because it makes every stage feel like you're interacting.
Yeah. They have so many properties, like, because we'll be out at FanFest, and that's focusing in on Final Fantasy 14 and only that property. And it's like, oh no, yeah, there's Overwatch, there's, Diablo, there's WoW, there's Warcraft 3 now. There's, it's like boom, 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 boom.
I don't know, there's 6 stages, or there's a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, there ends up being seats still available when they have to close the doors, so that there's not people filing in and out while going live. So I was like, man, did that mean people not get through security? Because there's still seats in the second deck. The first deck was full, the floor was full, but there's a second deck in our arena that still had maybe 10 or 20% capacity. So there was spots between groups where they haven't pushed down yet.
Yeah.
And they just never did. And when we left, there were people waiting to get in, and they just weren't able to make it. And then we started getting texts from friends. Like, we have a Discord thing for all the people that are here, this group I'm in. And they said that at one point, the supervisors walked to the teams on the metal detectors and said, there's too many people that are still outside. We're too close to the event. Ignore the beeping, let them through. So we spent all that time. So if you're questioning if it's security theater or not, they literally just started saying, go, just go. I don't care if it beeps. I don't care if you have a water bottle. I don't care. So we were forced to if you have a water bottle that's not sealed, you have to dump it. You have to wait. People knew, hey, I'm going to be in lines all day. So they bought big water bottles. So they're doing whole jugs and any no food and all this. And then there's just this wave of people at the end that just come on in.
Just come on. If we were going to catch you, we would have caught you already.
It was so arbitrary. It was so unplanned. You have people who went through security multiple times. You have people who went through no security. I mean, they walked through security, but nobody was like, it's fine, just go. It's fine. It's fine.
So we're going to talk about the overall BlizzCon, and then obviously I think at some point we're going to do kind of a versus, or kind of just the overall thoughts of both conferences here in a couple of weeks, because it's really cool that you can have this perspective from the two. There's obviously a lot of things that are different, and there's things that we'll compare, and there's things that are just going to be different for the simple fact that they're different. But I'm going to kind of dive right now and kind of focus kind of our conversation around kind of two topics. But I think they're really related to one another, and I really want to get your perspective. You're going to be going hands-on with Diablo Immortal later today, and I think this will be a conversation that continues. I was hoping that we could collab last night, but yeah, you were out with friends, and so I ended up sitting down and just kind of venting my frustration with that announcement. The thread the thread that ties into this is that obviously our conversation about the state of World of Warcraft, are the developers listening? I mean, it all kind of boils down. That's what people called us out on, and that's what I kind of talked about in my Diablo video, is that they're saying is Blizzard listening? Some people are saying obviously Activision has taken root And so we're going to kind of then move into the concept of what they're talking about with the future of World of Warcraft. They start talking about what is coming. For me, as somebody who was watching this remote, you were watching it live. One of the key kind of two key points that stood out that relate to this, and this is then I'll throw it over to you, is when he talked about Azerite gear at the World of Warcraft kind of announcement and how the room just fell silent.
And adorn their armies with the mythic power of Azerite. With a horde retrenched in Kalimdor.
That was, for me, telling. I was like, okay, now I don't know if they're if they're listening to their fans who, when they talk about the Azerite system, who that seems to be a bigger point of frustration, how the room just bombed in their thing. Like the power of Azerite, everybody's like, hush.
I think we were waiting to see if they'd say anything. They answered a lot about Azerite in the What's Next panel.
Good. Okay. Cool. Let's dive into that.
What's Next panel felt
better.
It felt like a live letter.
Okay.
So it was very like, here's the patch notes, here's our content plan. So like it wasn't horribly revealing, but there are some key changes coming up, and a traditional live letter or a traditional patch notes from whatever developer you're talking to is typically coming up on the next patch. They actually revealed pieces, works in progress, of things that they're not only doing in the next patch, but the 0.5 after that, and the patch after that, and the 0.5. So we got like a little bit of like, and it's as accurate as like a weather report. So it's like tomorrow, 70% chance of rain. By Sunday, by Tuesday. And so they have that kind of forecast, and you know that it gets less accurate the further out you look. But it is nice to see that somebody's looking out that far and that they are listening. Good. On the topic of Diablo.
Yes. I felt like the guy was forced.
So there was a post on their blog that said the Diablo announcement. It said something along the lines of like, it is big, but it's not what you're wanting. Mm-hmm. So we knew going in that was a public external comment from Blizzard saying this is not Diablo 4.
Right. But and it didn't have to be Diablo 4. I don't want to be asked what it is,
and I'm not ready to tell you.
Right.
So they end up announcing that it's a mobile game that's almost
mobile only.
Existing. Yeah. And it's mobile only. And they talked a little bit about, for those of you who didn't get a chance to see it, they talked about how like the goal is to bring this to the most people, but keep it true to its roots, and all the traditional things you'd want to hear that ideally think you make some piece of a mobile app is not a money grab. I'm looking forward to getting on the demo today. All the panels were really close together yesterday. Many of them were overlapping, and it was a lot of the big panels. Yesterday was all the content reveals, and so I didn't want to miss any. So today's when I'm going to go through all the demo lines.
Yeah.
I didn't come here to see Train live. They're a very successful band and all, but that's a great time to go do demos. So that's my plan today. And I've talked a lot with my community. Last night we went out, and so it was nice to be around so many gamers. That's what's so cool about this experience. This is my first time going to a video game conference that's entirely video games. It's not about comics. It's not about, it is just video games, and it's just video games from a developer I love. So that's been really cool. And it's nice because like Brian, you and I usually talk about a lot of things, but unfortunately there are times that we agree, and that is unfortunate because it means we don't have the other side.
Right.
Thankfully we disagree a lot, so we at least have some back and forth, but it's really nice to kind of hear a lot of the people that I'm here with.
Just perspective at the end of the day.
Some of them are game developers. Some of them have been QA for various large game companies. So being around people that are truly invested in this community and have like a level of knowledge that maybe even you who's around software aren't exposed to on a regular basis.
Right.
Because you're not producing games.
Yet.
So one of the things that they pointed out that I thought was very valid is, first of all, Diablo coming to mobile is not a bad thing if your goal is to tie in an audience that isn't as serious about Blizzard games. And so really the problem is doing it at BlizzCon.
Yes.
Doing it to an audience who specifically is looking for Diablo, like a core experience. And so then the question becomes, well, what could they have done better? Well, they could have announced it at something like Gamescom, somewhere that was a more appropriate venue. Any conference in the EU where Diablo tends to do very well. They could have picked a better time and a better place. If it had to be BlizzCon, if they felt we cannot get enough meat to justify a Diablo stage without this, and we have part of the floor set aside for Diablo demos because now's the time, and we want to get the Diablo name in the search results because it just went live on Switch yesterday. I was watching a friend play last night. Looked very smooth.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I hear the Switch port is fantastic, and they've already talked about crossplay for the Switch. Like Blizzard has actively said they're working on it, and so that's what actually cut at the root of just mobile only. And it's like it makes like I was like, that's fine.
I thought it was weird that. So I get off the plane here, and on the like digital billboards in the airport, there are Diablo releasing tomorrow on Switch ads because they know the audience. There's a bunch of Blizzard people getting off planes today.
Of course.
So all these ads. So I expect they didn't really talk about the Switch yesterday in the reveal. I didn't go to the panel because the panel was immediately after. So we literally couldn't get out of our arena and make it to that panel.
Right.
I mean, it was immediate. And we were starving by that point. So we went and had lunch. And honestly, we were all kind of frustrated with the reveal. So I'm going to go back on my virtual ticket and watch the event when I have more time. But the other thing that I see in the comments and everything as I'm watching yours is kind of, are they out of touch because they're spending time and money on this, right? So like they were willing to give us something. Did they just not listen to what we want? Well, based on the way the blog post read, it doesn't seem that they're not working on Diablo 4. They're just not ready to talk about it yet.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
and the question is when did that blog post go up? As the editor in me, I'm hopefully going to go find that blog post and overlay it to this conversation because, like, did it go up in August or did it go up, 10 minutes before? Like, oh, guys, 10 minutes, like, by the way.
Somebody read it to me. I think it was more recent than that, but I can tell you. So the other thing is, like, people say, well, they're wasting dev time. Well, they're not.
They're not. It's another company that's doing it.
Who's doing the back end, and then Blizzard sounds like they're the ones doing the art assets. But you have to think they're working on Diablo 4. It's way too early to need finalized art assets. They might need some rough drafts. And you have these artists who are on salary who are just sitting around not producing anything. And yeah, maybe they can go home every day at 3 and spend time with their family and then prepare for the crunch down the road. But you could also say, hey, we got this little side project. It only needs art assets. So let's take this department that's sitting on their hands right now and let's get them working. And so I think it's not as costly as people think it is. And that was an interesting point that we were talking about here. And I think what's frustrating is the way they did the announcement. They also could have talked a little more about the traditional Diablo game.
Yes.
So like if you go to FanFest and the reveal is about Record Keeper is getting a new update, all they have to do to make you feel like they're still in touch is say, and let's go ahead and do the live letter. The live letter does not have any shocking information. They're going to say we have new main story quests, we have a new dungeon, we have a new trial. Like the majority of a live letter is predictable.
Yeah.
But when you look at the total time in a 25-minute announcement, you can take 15 minutes reading patch notes. And so you look at 25 minutes and you're like, well, the majority of the time, the majority of, and so the Diablo event was the last reveal they did. So we go through this whole day. We deal with security, there's arenas, there's people being stuck outside, even though there's seats. So there's a bunch of frustrated fans who paid money and struggled to get tickets. They went through the same tickets sold out too fast that FanFest did. They struggled to get here. And then you build through all these announcements. Some of them are big, like the Overwatch thing. That's awesome. And then you end on Diablo.
Yeah.
Why would that be the last
announcement? It just feels out of touch. It feels like they don't know the audience that's there. Because again, I don't care that it's on mobile. I personally would love it because it looks interesting. I would personally love it if it was on mobile, like mobile and Switch, like just give me the ability to play it. And that I'm in, but it's mobile only. And then that's kind of like and we're done, everybody. Followed by the fact is that the presenter also just felt like he was at gunpoint. That's just I'm reading into that.
He didn't look thrilled.
That's like, hey, like he looked like when the guy, like, did you see the video of the guy asking him if it was a joke? So a guy gets up and asks him as a joke. Like Skill Up tweets out that like, man, this is savage. A guy from Katu basically is like, this isn't savage. This guy's a jerk. So there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions in this vein. But he gets up and asks, like, is this an early April Fool's joke? Like, and he cuts to the root of it because
Lucio's are really coming out.
That's great.
Like Kellogg's.
Yeah. So I felt like he was at gunpoint, and so then you cut to the video of that, and he asked the question, and the guy who was like presenting. I felt like he was laughing along with the group, just because it's like, why are we doing this at like announce it at Gamescom? People are coming in with the expectation. We're gonna say, hey, we're gonna talk more about it.
Cool, Diablo has something to say.
What's that?
Like it'd be like, oh, cool, so Diablo has something to say.
Yeah.
There's no expectation there. As opposed to Diablo stage, there's a whole Diablo demo section that we walk by. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And expectations is key here, because it's like people are like, oh, like it's like, yeah, I would like going into it. I was like, I don't know what they're announced. I'm not gonna build it up in my mind. I'm not gonna think it's Diablo 4. Some people talked about either an expansion or maybe a remaster of Diablo 2. And after the World of Warcraft 3 Reforged, Warcraft 3 Reforged, I was like, oh, maybe the Diablo 2 thing would make kind of sense. To bundle something like that with this, I think feeds both audiences. It's just like with Nintendo when they announced Pokemon Let's Go, which we got to play. We have almost a similar opinion. It's just like, who's this for? But they announced at the same time with Pokemon Let's Go as, hey, don't worry, there is a core game and it's just around the corner. We're not going to tell you about that core game, but we're going to let you know so you don't freak out.
That's all it needs to be.
It's all it's like, and for the all it has to be, and for the core Diablo fans, for the core Diablo fans, we're going to be talking about the future of Diablo coming soon. We're not ready to talk about that today. Oh, good. Oh, we're not lost in the wilderness, you know.
That's all it needed to be. We're going to add, by the way, guys, we've talked it over and we're not sure, but there's going to be at least one more new class added before we move to Diablo 4. So keep an eye out for when we're ready to tell you more.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, because I want to burn more clock so that it feels like I'm spending more time talking to the core audience than I'm not, let's go ahead and talk about a new season. We're adding some new cosmetics. I mean, you can literally take just stuff that could be released in patch notes and read it to us with a little bit of excitement. And then you can really make it feel like you're listening. You don't even have to be listening to make it feel like you're listening. So it felt like a lack of effort. Now, on the note that he felt like he was kind of at gunpoint, I agree that he did not feel like he's excited about that presentation. But I want to point out, I don't know what all came across on the virtual ticket, but when Hearthstone went live, the Hearthstone stage could hear his mic, but his mic didn't make it into the stream. Okay. So every other arena and any virtual ticket holder could not hear him.
Okay. So what did he say?
It was you just saw him talking with no audio.
Okay.
So when you talk about an event that has all this stuff going on backstage and all these moving parts and multiple stages and multiple presentations, and then we're immediately moving into panels, they started late because they were worried about the security thing. So now they're on less time. So they cut a few things. Like we had these glow sticks in the arena and there was going to be this stunt and everything that just got cut. So I just had this unbroken glow stick in my hands with like a paper instructions that said like, so we never did the thing that they bought a bunch of glow sticks to do. Yeah. So they have different things in different arenas and they're going to have all these cool, like, oh, look at the audience. They're doing a thing that we taught them. And so that didn't happen. And then the Hearthstone thing, they had to pan to another stage and then have the Hearthstone guy give his presentation basically again from the Mythic stage. So he had to walk to a different stage. They had to queue him back up. So behind the scenes, I know there was a lot of like, wow, this really went to crap fast. Like we're an hour into the conference and we've had security nightmares. We have had, a mic not work. So I'm not sure that it was entirely some
about
like
the announcement.
Big, and one thing I want to point out is like, you guys have to remember Blizzard before Activision. They are perfectly capable of stepping in their own mud.
Yeah.
Everybody who's like, well, Activision's making them do this stupid stuff. Blizzard is perfectly capable of being stupid without Activision.
Yeah.
So I don't want to immediately jump to some conspiracy theory that there's these guys in like black robes having a ceremony about how they're going to tank Blizzard. Yeah. I'm not sure that it needs to be that complex. It can just be mobile games are really big right now. We have mobile apps for a lot of our games. Is there something we could do with Diablo? We got onto the concept of mobile in our heads when we started talking about taking it to Switch. Can we take it the rest of can we take it the last 30 yards and carry it truly onto mobile? What does that look like? How does that work? Does it fit within the schedule where it does not slow down? Another expansion, if there will be one before Diablo 4, Diablo 4 itself. And so they had all that. So I do think they're listening. I just think they're not communicating.
Yeah.
I think they're not sharing enough with us. I don't think it's as bad as everybody wants it to be.
My final thought on just this topic, because what we'll do is we'll cut and we'll actually do our WoW conversation just as its own video, just for the sake of time and respect everybody here. But my final thought on this is that I sometimes see this within business. It's either hubris, or it's some kind of interesting strategy. And we've seen this with Microsoft, with Sony, with Nintendo, with everybody, in which that it's like, even like I would say Sony's E3 conference this year, very low key.
Spider-Man turned out to be great.
Well, like the games in themselves are great, but it's that sometimes does it make sense to go ahead and take some punches to look like, oh man, what is going on, to bring in that conversation, so that when you come back and you show, when you say like, aha, look at what we've done, it ends up feeling so much more like a comeback story, which resonates personally, I think, with a lot of Americans. Americans love underdogs when underdogs win. Otherwise, we don't. Like, if you're the underdog and you lose, we forget about you just as fast. But when the underdog can come back and win, and so, like, I've seen it with Microsoft, like, this is, I don't want to go more into conspiracy theory, but just as somebody who kind of watches all these different things, Windows Vista step down, lets the stock price drop down so that you can acquire very much more, and then boom, Windows 7. You know, it's like, and then we've learned. Now, as long as you have that kind of, that reversal moment, that then I think is such more powerful marketing, almost like, I mean, look at Sony's PS4 coming off of PS3. You know, it'll be interesting to see how Xbox to the Xbox One to Xbox Infinity, that's what I'm calling it, you know, has that kind of like, is this a comeback story that people can get behind, that people can be excited about? Diablo Mobile, well guys, yeah, we heard you. Now Diablo 4, you know, oh my god, people are freaking crying in the streets. There's wailing and rejoicing, you know. That it is, you know, it's either a hubris that does this, and then you respond positively, or at some point, like, you know, we have analytics, we have big data, and it's silly to think that businesses don't use that.
And we have a new president of WoW, or Blizzard.
Oh, okay.
He was the WoW lead, right? So he just moved up. So like, there's a lot of change going on that's going to affect the culture. It's hard to say with a company that has this many moving parts that your message isn't making it to the top.
Right.
It might be, and it might not be. It's just hard to listen to something that has that many moving aspects to it.
Listening versus hearing. You know, like understanding versus, versus platitudes. Chris, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this video?
No, I'm really excited. Hopefully I'll get to shoot one more with you real quick, and then I'm going to go sit through these panels. I will say that my plan today is to go do the Diablo. I'd like to sit in the demo line and do that, as well as there's a few other demos that interest me, Warcraft 3. I'd like to do the Mythic Plus. The WoW Classic, I had some friends waiting that one while I went and experienced the Darkmoon Fair for my first time, and it is literally WoW Classic. Yeah. It literally is WoW Classic. I have some opinions on some of the UI changes that they made, but for the most part, it is just taking me back in time over a decade. Yeah.
Well, we'll dive into that obviously, hopefully later today or later this week. When do you fly back anyway? I'm just curious.
Monday.
Okay,
Monday.
So we actually have plenty of time for you to be out there. Plenty of things to be able to kind of get your thoughts and impressions of it, and we go from that. Anyway, guys, for Work to Game, let us know if you guys got any questions, comments below. Also, be sure to follow us at Work to Game on Twitter. Tweet at us if you got any questions or you want Chris to check out anything, provide any more context. We'd love to be able to try to cover as much about BlizzCon as absolutely possible. Having a man on the street, a man in the trenches, being able to, it's really cool for that, for us as a, I guess, a channel to be able to kind of sit here and be like, you know, we kind of been able to watch more from the sidelines, but you're in the thick of it. So I really cannot wait to hear what you think about Diablo Immortal. I really like, that's like, how does it play? How does it feel? Does it feel like a cash grab? Does it feel like something that's got some meat to its bones? But anyway, guys, sound off. Comments below. Tweet at us. Love to hear from you. Also feel free to say hi to Chris if you see him out there at BlizzCon, if you're out there as well. And then hopefully Chris will have his coffee, and you know, we're learning. You know, like, yeah, take a picture, tweet. Who knows? We're figuring it out. Guys, for Work to Game, my name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in our next one. Hey, buddy. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You. Yes. You on YouTube. You. Look into my eye. Look into the feasting eye of Charles Gubu, a.k.a. Chuck. Listen, I totally know you want to hit that subscribe button. It's really important you do. Trust me, it's worth it. It's worth it. The eyes don't lie. Okay. All right. Good talk. Good talk. Oh, and thanks to our patrons. You guys are amazing. Gubu, Chubu, Out.